Hello and welcome to another 12 days of Christmas. I'm joined again by Mr. Luke John.
Konnichiwa.
And you'll join us on our whiskey journey through these 12 days. This time we're focusing on a particular category or series. And, to give a bit of background, at the end of the 19th century, there were 4 whiskey distilleries remaining in England. We had the Bankhall Distillery and the Vauxhall Distillery in Liverpool, with the Bristol Distillery in Bristol, and with the Lee Valley Distillery in Stratford in London.
And in 1903, the last whiskey distillery closed its doors, which was thought forever, and production in England ceased to exist. It wasn't until a century later, back in 2003, yes, we all feel old at that statement, whiskey in England was reborn.
So over the last 2 decades, we've witnessed the rebirth of whiskey production here in England. There are now over 56 distilleries producing whiskey, but a slight caveat of 25 of those actually only releasing a product at the moment because whiskey needs 3 years to be considered whiskey. So for these 12 days of Christmas, we're going to shine a light on 12 English distilleries that are making single malt whiskies. We've got a different variety of ones that we're aiming to cover, but the idea is that we're going to show you English whiskies and answer the question, can English whiskies compete against the existing big country producers?
Ooh.
So for day one, what are we looking at?
Let's ask. Now, the rebirth of English whiskey started in one place, and that is at Healey's. So here we've got a Hicks and Healey's Single Malt Whiskey. Now, Healey's distillery is officially the oldest and first whiskey distillery in England since the 19th century. Over to you again.
Well, we can ask questions about that, but we may go into that at the next part. So Hicks and Healey's is a collaboration between St. Austell's Brewery, and the word brewery may come up a few times over these 12 days, and Healey's Cidery. So what happens is St. Austell's are doing the mash, and it goes over to Healey's who do the distilling and storing. But on that mash, what's important is how it comes together. So we all know St. Austell's is in Cornwall.
Indeed.
And they use Maris Otter.
They do indeed. So it's obviously, as Liam just said, it's expertly brewed. They've kept it local. They kept it to a single malt. As we know, if people have been watching this little series that we've been doing on Scotland, single malt is the epitome of whiskies.
And not necessarily needing age statements. So you will notice, because we said it's only been going about 2 decades, and that's from St. Austell's and Healey's kicking this off, we're not going to see many actual age statement ones here. Long-term wise, that looks to be increasing. We're seeing a lot more now that do have age statements, but it's a big investment into whiskey. 3 years to be able to call whiskey. A lot of them are smaller producers. We will talk about their capacities as we go through the days. But yeah, on to this one to begin with. I'm tempted to just get this cracked open.
Yep.
Have a whiff, see what it's like. Let's go for it.
Let's go for it. And while Liam is doing that, I will say it is 3 years and 1 day to be called a whiskey. So if you're in the comments and you're watching this, tell him to include the day. So that is all important.
I made a mess of the label there, unfortunately.
We could thank a lovely Welsh man for that. That was Prime Minister of the UK at the time. Looks good to me.
So here we have the Hicks and Healey's single malt. They don't produce many. It mainly is, this is their whiskey. And then aside from that, they do some age statement ones. So their first release was in 2011, where they released the 7 year. So as you said, 2003 is when they started. They released a 7-year as their first release in 2011. And I think it was cask strength as well. But the one we're looking here is 40%. It's their single malt, which is their main one they produce. Color-wise?
Yeah, it's probably a little bit lighter than it is on camera. You've kind of got a light amber hue to the whiskey, which, it doesn't look much, but it's just inviting and saying, taste me now. So I reckon, without further ado,
Let's get a whiff on it first.
let's get into the review, and let's see what Hicks and Healey has to offer.
Yeah. That actually is very nice.
It is.
I know it's our first of the 12 days, but that is very inviting in smell.
It's very polite to one's nostrils, if that must be said. It's quite sweet. It's not as acidic. Obviously, we don't expect there to be smoke, but it does smell of the barley. But overall, not too bad. Like I said, it does on the nose seem a little sweet.
So the sweetness was the first thing that I got, which I thought was very nice. And normally, the main concern always when you're going in, especially with a nice little snifter glass like this, is alcohol burn. Doesn't even need a pass over with this. It's very gentle.
Yes.
And that sweetness, I think, is what carries it. Be interesting to see what comes through on this. So, Maris Otter, and I'm not too up to clue with some of the Scottish ones because they don't normally mention the barley they're using, do they?
No.
Which is makes this stand out. And you'll see with some of the English ones, they do mention their barley quite a lot.
Yeah.
So it does make it stand out. And Maris Otter is most commonly known for ale production, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, as a northerner, the only barley I know is pearl barley that you put in a soup that I used to call Bob's teeth.
What are you going to say? Robinson's barley.
No. We used to nickname it Bob's teeth because of an old bloke up opposite that was called Bob. And he used to pop all our footballs every time it went in his garden.
Oh, no, okay, yeah, with his rake or something.
Yeah. So because we were quite poor, everything was stocked out with pearl barley, which just became affectionately known in my family as Bob's teeth.
Oh, how nice. How nice. Right, I'm looking forward to the first one. Merry Christmas, everyone. Hope you're having a great day.
Happy New Year and all that.
Cheers, us. Take care. Stancha. That's all. Straight away, that is very smooth. And I don't want to say thin, but I'm getting that there's not much body overall to it for me. And I don't want to have that come across sounding as a bad thing, but it does feel very smooth, very light is probably the word I should be using. Correct terminology for me. There's a gentle heat to it.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's mainly barley and sweetness that I'm getting. Yourself?
So straight away the heat. So the burn of the whiskey is right there. It's right on the inside of the lips as you swirl it around your mouth. Then comes the sweetness, a little bit of chocolate, a little bit of honey. It's kind of got a, like I said, it is slick. It's a little bit oily, but not over the top. So it still has got that little bit of a liquid edge to it, which is where you say like the thickness comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a little bit clovey, a little bit banana-ish. And that's just what I'm getting off my first. First, it could develop more as we go through. And we will say that the format for these is we're going to review them in 3 stages. So we're going to take first sip, review, take a second, explain if there's any differences. Then we will add a pipette of water, which is just a little drop or two of water, just to see what oils and flavors that it develops.
Cool. So I'm going to take the second little sip of this. I would say that's a heat that slowly builds, not straight away for me. There's heat on the end, but I'm getting more vanilla on an ending. There's sweetness, but the vanilla ending.
Yeah, it's kind of, so the heat is now a little bit more rounded. Obviously, the lips have took that little bit of sharp shock that, oh crikey, it's 40%. On the second one, the flavor is amplified, but I'm getting a little bit more like of a gritty texture to it. So it's kind of a little bit more sandy, a little bit more chalky in there. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I'm still going to say thin, still smooth. The sweetness is there, but I'm getting like a vanilla ending note from it. Yeah, I'm tempted now at this stage because I don't think it's that complex like some of the other ones that we may come across. And I know it sounds weird. I'm not criticizing it. It is a decent whiskey. It's just others will have complexities to it, depending on what it's been aged in, and also the ABV. And this is 40%, which is the lower limit of what you'll find whiskey being produced at.
Yeah.
So I think it's pipette time.
It is pipette time.
Yeah. So going to add a little drop. I'm going for 3 drops just to separate some of this. I don't know if it'll make much of a change because this is only 40%. It will have a bigger impact. I tend to find, and I think you agree with that, with the higher ABV cask strength ones, which we do have a few of.
We do indeed. We do indeed.
The nose has, I'm not going to say flattened slightly, but that sweetness has dropped off.
Yeah. I'm kind of getting more now of like the alcohol than the sweetness. So the oils are definitely opened up a little bit. But it's still not offensive. No. I find with some of the things like White Mackay, the teachers, that kind of element of things that we've done in the past, where it kind of on the nose is too harsh. So this is kind of even more so balanced out than it was on the first.
I would also just caveat with those that they are blends, which actually should be a bit more robust and less burn on them because they should be blending it to a better standard. But yeah, we discussed that all last year. If you want to look at last year, I'll link the playlist above and you can have a look through the 12 days of the 12 best-selling whiskies of 2023 for the UK.
Yep. I reckon it's time to...
Yeah. Cheers again.
Cheers, folks.
That's actually raised the heat, reduced the sweetness. I feel there's more heat at the front, but I'm also getting a slight aniseed note to it.
I'm getting now, so the chocolate honeycomb type thing is now gone. It's actually gone now more into a butterscotch fudge.
Still keeps
so
sweet.
Yeah, so it's still sweet, but the flavour is just adjusted slightly. So it's kind of not as sweet, but the characteristics of it have changed just a little.
Mine has moved away from sweetness entirely, but each individual palate is each palate at that stage. Mine has gone more towards a slightly bitter element with aniseed.
And don't forget, I put 2 drops in, Liam put 3. So it, sometimes, yeah, so sometimes with whiskey, from 1 drop to 3 drops could be an entire different drink altogether. So we'll just stress that now in case if you're thinking, oh, well.
And volume or quantity left of whiskey in the glass as well will change it. I think it's worthwhile, while we've done this, just to talk about price point.
Yeah.
Because we did talk about some of the blend ones that we were sort of comparing and saying, this is single malt, and what we're looking at for a bottle of this is £50.
£50. So it's a good price point. The issue you're going to have with getting this, it's not readily available. So you are going to struggle with it. You can get it off their website, but for those of us that like to check other websites to maybe get it a little bit cheaper, a little more deals, you're going to really struggle.
Yeah, I think they've been out of stock actually on the website for a bit, so I've had to source it from elsewhere. But yeah, we're looking at £50. I said they don't generally have a range. It's this. At the moment, they do have available a 15-year-old. Considering how long they've been going, they've got a 15-year-old out, but you're looking at nearly £400 for that one, which is a hefty whack. And I don't know if I could vouch for a 15-year-old for that price.
It's more than the monthly rent in Peterlee.
Oh my God.
At that point.
But just to cover something that I don't think we talked about, for Hicks and Healey, they are not a huge distillery. Their main focus obviously is beer and cider. They have, I think, a 1,200 litre capacity. And as you can probably tell by it being out of stock on their website, it's about space of laying the barrels. And that's what happens with a lot of these distilleries in England at the moment. They may have a capacity to distill. It's the capacity to store that is the biggest issue, and the cost of ingredients I'm waiting for a return. But I think for the first one in our edition, I liked it, but I know there's better ahead. But for £50 for a artisanal crafted one that's made with local Cornish and Marisotta, made by 2 trusted brands in the UK at least, it's a decent drop.
It is. It is indeed.
Yep.
So please go out, please buy it, please give it a go. And if you manage all of those, please drop it in the comments below and let us know.
All right. See you all on day 2. Take care, everyone.